Damn it! Wake up, Middle. It's time.
No audio, Monk. I had to wait for the YouTube stream to catch up because ads kept playing on the Twitch stream, which is usually faster.
Yeah. But now that audio is done, is ready to go, and fuck you, OBS. Welcome to the Record of Sword Forged Worlds, the unofficial Sword World podcast. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra. With me, of course, I have three of my good brothers. We have the man losing arguments with himself and possibly coping over the end of the World Series, good brother Hydra.
Hey, don't be. I'm a Montreal guy, not a Toronto guy. Yeah, there's a difference.
You will be seeing that one image as fuel for Toronto's victim complex for the next 3 generations.
And I'm all for it.
We have the man of the Wanderer's Library, good brother Sig.
Staying in his current master and continuing my studies in Sword World.
Yep. And the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
I will have all the crystals. I fucking will. You can't stop me. I will have... Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that all crystals come to Zadari Enterprises first for R&D testing.
My god, what kind of super weapon are you making?
Yes.
Fuck.
It will be my ultimate creation for this quarter.
Yep.
No, Liko, we're going to make so much goddamn money. Shut the fuck up. I know you're an AI. Thank you. For once, he shut the fuck up when he realized how much money we were going to make.
But so last time we did this about 2 weeks ago, we did a broad bird's eye view of the world of Forcelia. Both covering the continent of Alecrast, covering Chaos Land, bringing up Farland to a point, and Lodos. For the next few weeks, so this session and the next 2 sessions of the podcast, we'll be taking a bit more detailed of a look, starting with a return to Alecrast for this and next episode, and then delving into Lodos. Now, some of you may think you know what's going to be coming when we get to Lodos, but I assure you, unless you've been following the work here in the temple or certain translators, you're not. You may have seen an anime, you may have seen the OVA, you may have seen the anime, you may have even played the Dreamcast game. You still don't know the full story.
You think you do, but you don't.
I know some might say, isn't that a bit arrogant of me to say that? No. I'm never arrogant. I'm just truthful. But like I
And
said,
yet God continues to punish you for your hubris.
well, that's just because that's just for other reasons. Least of which being the times I've cheated at cards.
How many times have I told you not to piss off the gods?
And how many times have I responded with, "But we can kill them"?
That may be true. Still, though.
So, Alecrast is going to get the lion's share of focus over the next few weeks, and that's because it is the main continent for Sword World. It also has the biggest diversity of nations, whether it be full-size nations or smaller city-states. And there are also a few other things to note. A lot of what we're going to be covering was detailed in the Sword World World Guide, what I've called the Forcelia World Guide. And it is something that there are some matters of. Actually, I was going to say there's some matters of crunch, but this is not really a crunch-heavy book. In fact, with Sword World 1.0, there weren't very many crunch-heavy books. But I just realized, before I can even get to that, I need to do a little bit of house cleaning and a victory lap.
Oh boy.
So, you may recall, 2 weeks ago, I said that looking at Forcelia as a setting and saying it is D&D adjacent, I didn't feel was accurate. Because when I looked at it, I got far more of a vibe of RuneQuest. So imagine my surprise when 2 days after I bring that up, I get a DM from Aquid bringing up a interview in Denfamico Gamer with Ryo Mizuno. And he had said, quote, "I was inspired in part by D&D and The Lord of the Rings, so I ended up with something in that area, but that's just my personal preference. That said, I've played a lot of other fantasy games, and I particularly loved RuneQuest, which constructed a fantasy world that set it apart from Lord of the Rings, so that had a big influence on me. At the time, I was at the forefront of research on Glorantha." So I didn't even know about this interview until I was told about it. I was just going by my gut. And, it really is a burden being right all the time. Which is what you said exactly when I posted that thing.
Yes, I did. Because it really is a burden, us being right all the time.
Nah, it's a good burden, at the very least.
And it wasn't as if I had any foreknowledge. I was mostly going on the style of Alecrast's presentation and Forcelia's presentation as a whole, as well as the way the magic systems worked. And the fact that you had two distinct magic systems instead of everything just coalesced into one nebulous setup.
Yep.
And I know some will say, but early D&D had Arcane and Divine. I'm like, they still work the same way. So you still had a nebulous big dumb spell list.
Yes.
That and being wishy-washy about how magic actually worked, whereas with Forcelia, we don't have that problem. We know how magic works. Maybe not how it works to a science, but we know how it works.
Yes.
And now some of the stuff that's within the... Now getting back to the world guide, some of the stuff that's within it, we have covered in the past. Obviously, when it comes to the ages, we covered that 2 weeks ago. You know, we start with the Age of Mythology, which has a very Norse adjacent styling. Then we get to the Age of Magic, which with the Magic Kingdom, and then that is usurped, and we get the Age of Sword, leading us to the present day. Now the New Kingdom calendar started out 521 years ago from the present day. That new kingdom was established 10 years before the last ancient kingdom's fortress was fall. Castul being the first of what was referred to as the Kingdom of the Savages, i.e., modern Alecrast, and where Thaddean was founded. Then the Kingdom of Ramliers was established in the 7th year of the calendar. Obviously, in the 10th year, the last fortress fell. Every mage who was holed up in the fortress, and everyone period, was beheaded, and their bodies were displayed on the streets.
That's kind of...
You know, the 70th year, we get the Kingdom of Thaddean creates a unified kingdom from the eastern to the central parts of Alecrast. This starts the peace through fear period. Also known as I was going to say being a tyrant, but there are benevolent tyrants.
Benevolent tyrant.
Most people would call that an oxymoron, but I'll take it.
Well, in modern parlance, the idea of a tyrant has been one of someone who is abusing their position. But I believe tyrant was used originally as a political position in ancient Greece. Just one that had absolute authority.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Greek for absolute ruler, one who rules without law.
Yeah.
Now, I'd say we don't see the idea of tyrant as a negative until Plato.
Well, I mean, it's really when the big philosophical boom in Greece happened, but I think that's a little in the weeds, Monk.
But eventually, now that period lasts for quite a while until the 200th year of the calendar, where the king of Thaddean, King Numa VII, was assassinated, and that meant that you had a kingdom that essentially stretched across half of Alecrast, which now no longer has its head of state. Those of you who know about the Inner Sphere knows what happens next.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, it's not that bad, but...
Pay your internet bill, fucko.
All of the leading nobles have the mindset of, I should be the next king of Thaddean. The inevitable happens, and goes on for 70 years.
And let's be frank today, the Insurda did it worse, much worse, and longer.
Yeah, I just had to make the joke, but we get a warring states period for about 70 years. Most of the borders on the kingdoms of the east are the same as they are in the present day. This is also where the kingdom of Oran starts to make its appearance.
Oh God! I just heard Mickey screaming in the background.
Oh.
That's a deep cut for anyone who doesn't know us.
Then about 80 years later, the Road of the Free People, which we did talk about a couple weeks ago, gets completed. That being that massive passage that goes across the southern part of the continent.
Yep.
25 years after that, the Kingdom of Bor got wrecked. A lot of the cities of that kingdom would go independent, forming modern city-states. In about 55 years after that, in year 430, the lands of Ofun, in the lands of Ofun, the Kingdom of Fun arise. In 490, the dragon Krish wrecks the Kingdom of Morana. We talked about that.
Yep.
In year 494, a civil war erupts in Fun, and the city-state of Python in Pandaria is annexed. In 495, Rajal does his military exploits, and the dragon Krish is defeated. In 500, the civil wars end in Fun, and King Rijal founds Ofun. Which we talked about that, how that civil war led to the creation of two nations, one of which still thinks that the other is part of their territory. Laverna does their journey in year 510. That journey would go for about 11 years, just going all across Alecrast, and eventually creating the book, The Natural History of Alecrast, which there's a kind of in-universe nod that the World Guide is the natural history of Alecrast. And a lot of passages within the book are read in a kind of journal way. But I suppose the first place that we can start is the northern central plains. This is the spot that has the Unicorn Woods. It's right to the west of Lake Air, and to the south is where you have things like Seine and the Salandra Sea, and of course way south is the route to the Isle of the Damned. But although calling Lake Air a lake seems a little bit underselling it, is
underwhelming.
Lake Air, given the size, reminds me more of the Great Lakes in North America.
Yeah.
Especially like Lake Superior, where I don't know if any of you have visited that place, but it's like looking at a flat ocean.
I have not.
Asking the man who lived in the northern part of Minnesota for 2 years whether he's been to Lake Superior? Huh. Never thought I'd get that question in my lifetime.
But I mean, Minnesota is a pretty big place with 3 places: the cities, Darange, and Duluth.
Yep. But
the two main nations when it comes to the northern central plains are Ofun, the Kingdom of Heroes, and Ramliers, the Magical Kingdom. Ofun is still a new kingdom, and it has gotten that title of the Kingdom of Heroes because King Rijal, is known for his military campaigns and is known for killing a dragon. The primary armed forces within the kingdom are the Knights of the Order of the Iron Spear, and under them are the soldiers. Sometimes, if it calls for it, new troops are recruited from civilians. But it isn't a forced conscription thing. It's more of a volunteer thing. in peacetime, knights and soldiers are doing things like guarding castles and maintaining security, as well as patrolling borders. Those who have sufficient ability are appointed as ministers and hold positions in government. Some knights may also be sent to local towns and villages to act as feudal lords. In smaller villages, you have a village headman elected. Although regional inspectors and tax collectors will still visit those smaller villages. And ministers and feudal lords are treated as nobles. In recent years, some of them have been given titles like Duke or Count, but those titles aren't recognized in Oath. Especially since there's an attitude that as a knight, your loyalty is to the king first and foremost. So it's not a case where knights have their own fiefdom that they're more loyal to. It's a case of if you are knighted, you are likely part of the Order of the Iron Spear, and your loyalty is to the king first and foremost. Ofun is described as a very new country. And when I say new, keep in mind it was established in the year 500. So at the time of the present day with Sword World, Ofun's only been around for 21 years. As far as nations go, that is child age.
Yeah. That's brand new. Brand spanking new.
Like you've just barely begun walking.
I think 21 years into the U.S.'s history, there's still the argument about Articles of Confederation or whatnot. But a lot of the territory is sloping hills and low grasses, and there's a lot of grain cultivation and cattle raising. Some of the mountains within that area produce high purity iron ore.
Oh, nice. And
it is said that the iron is one of the bigger exports, though the southern forests also have a good amount of woodcutters by trade.
So since they have an abundance of natural resources when starting a new kingdom.
Or they just got really lucky in where they established it.
Mm-hmm. And Mario brings up only 21 years. It hasn't even had a civil war yet. In all fairness, it was born out of a civil war. because Ofun was born out of the kingdom of Fun.
Yep.
Shortly after the marriage of Queen Melte, who was the fifth princess of Morana. Her husband was assassinated, which triggered the Fun Civil War. And you had the awkwardness of who was going to succeed, as well as the fact that there were 2 princes and 3 princesses that had been born to the king and queen. But it was shortly after that you had the Civil War. You had what happened with Queen Melta, who is currently married to King Rijal. Their recognized crown prince is Prince Riddler. The other ones being lower on the line of succession. You know how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the royal family, the biggest influence is the chancellor and the head of the Sorcerers Guild, that being Narves the Great, as well as Jenny, the Princess of the Sword, who isn't technically a princess. That's just what she's been called. She's a priestess of the war god Miley. So, not too far removed. The big reason why they have that kind of position is they were two of the three heroes, along with Rijal, who defeated Kirsch. It also doesn't exactly hurt that Carves and Miley are known as some of the best users of divine and ancient magic.
I mean, with a resume like that, who wouldn't want to have those people in charge?
Now, a lot of the nobles who supported the former Queen of Fun have taken up positions in politics within Ofun, as well as the Blacksmiths Guild has a significant amount of power, which makes sense when one of their big resources is iron ore.
Yep.
And would it surprise you at all if I say that the dwarf clans that live in Ofun have a significant amount of pull too?
No.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That's not surprising at all.
Yeah, and
it's about as surprising as the.
About as surprising as what?
I was going to say about as surprising as the fact that the sun rises in the east.
You know, sun rises in the east. New York Mets suck, and dwarves love their ore.
And Toronto is still Toronto.
What certainly helps is that Ofun imports a lot of ale and wine, specifically to keep the dwarves happy.
So they're not.
I mean, who wouldn't want? Who would say no to free booze anyway?
Well, it's not free, but you still gotta supply it. And it's to the point that the northern road is called the Ale Road, going in and out because there are barrels of ale and wine going back and forth.
Again, who would say no to booze?
But there was also the fact that Laverna, who wrote the natural history of Alecrast, was only 12 years old when she joined the Sorcerers Guild in Ofun. And eventually she joined that research project that was all about traveling the Alecrast continent, and it was King Rijal who essentially bankrolled it. And as far as Rijal, even before he became king, he was already a legend for his military exploits. He started out as an adventurer, then met Queen Meltet, who was still on the run after the assassination of her husband. And it didn't take long for things to escalate. But when it came to the dragon, the dragon was once human. he was the leader of some of the tribes that held sway over the shores of Lake Air. Although saying he was once human is more of he had a human appearance, so it could have been just him shape-shifting. But it's more likely he ended up using dragon magic, which was a secret art among Krish's family.
Yep.
And the problem is the highest form of dragon magic is transforming into one. Which, as a bit of an aside, that's why dragon magic is a GM exclusive thing.
Understandable. Have a good day.
Mm-hmm. And I know one might say, wasn't the Lizardman and Goblin Slayer hoping to become a dragon?
Yes.
Yeah, though with the way that he acted, which was more akin to a monk. Surprise, surprise! He was one of my favorites in Goblin Slayer. I think for him and his people, transforming into a dragon is their equivalent of enlightenment. Based on I don't have anything to outright say that. That's just the vibe I get from how he talked about it.
Hey, if history repeats itself, who knows? Maybe in a couple of days you'll be able to do another victory lap.
No, I don't think that'll be the case this time. Because I'm not covering the Goblin Slayer novels anytime soon, and I won't cover the game maybe when we start talking about 2.5. But it's not going to be on this podcast. Now, the other thing to note is that within Ofun there is a particular type of Yoma that's seen there quite a bit, and that is kobolds. Which kobolds are not the doggos that you might see in 2.5
or Ragnarok.
They are certainly a type of goblin, one that the dwarves fucking hate. Dwarves believe that kobolds corrode silver. But when it comes to the magical kingdom, Ramliers, it is not a kingdom of ancient magic. As mentioned a couple weeks ago, all of the ancient magic kingdoms have been wiped out by the time we get to the new calendar. Ramliers is older than Ofun, but not by much. Ramliers has only been around for about 400 years. And now, as far as the founding of it, it has gone into a bit of legend. And it hasn't had too much in the way of political upheaval, except for one Viscount committing treason, which only that over the course of 400 or 500 years. That's not a bad ratio.
No, it ain't that bad at all.
Now, I'd say one of the bigger reasons it has the title of the Magical Kingdom is a lot of the cities in Like are very Castoul influenced. For those who weren't here 2 weeks ago, Castoul was the Magic Kingdom that established the Second Age of Magic. The one that was usurped to create the Age of Sword. Of course, the other thing that can certainly add to that title is the existence of the Van Blade, which is considered the strongest magic sword in the Ancient Kingdom, or at least of the ones that still exist. The south of it has the Unicorn Woods that lead to Lake Air, as well as the Chain of Bizarre Cliffs, where the fight against the dragon took place. Of course, eastward there's the Desert of Empty, and the north, the sea, across the Asgard Mountains, is the Sea of Ice. Ramliers is a cold place. It doesn't snow much, but cold winters take up half the year. So, Scottish winters?
I mean, something like that.
Mm-hmm. The Yasgara Mountains do have a lot of iron and copper, so they do have that kind of industry. And there are some dwarven settlements, of course, but nowhere near as many as Ophir. Especially since the southern part is a flat plain with a lot of different forests. Agriculture is a big source of income, cattle breeding, and horse breeding, which cattle and horse breeding are probably the most prosperous industries in Ramliers. And Ramlier horses are said to be some of the highest qualities in the continent. Especially war horses. So if you want to put in your favorite horse girl, here's where you do it.
That game, don't get me started.
And even though a lot of knights ride those horses, there's a lot of... And... Hold on a second. Sorry about that. OBS decided to DC and re-see. And Mario says, who don't the dwarves hate? People who provide them ale.
Yep.
It isn't very difficult to win a dwarf starts over. You just gotta be willing to put in the L.
Mm-hmm. But some of the legends when it comes to Ramliers were hinted at in I believe in the book the Unicorn Maiden, which was later made into a manga, which I do have the translation of. But the royal capital of Ramliers is the city of Lynas. And it is implied that the king of Ramliers is a descendant of the ancient kingdom. Although how much of that is actually the case is up in the air. And of course, because you're dealing with a kingdom that was destroyed, it's hard to say whether or not that's actually the case.
Yep. Could just be propaganda.
But I'd say one of the more well-known parts of the place is the Unicorn Woods, which of course, if you're going to call it that, there are going to be unicorns there, but there's also other magical beasts there, which is why it is considered a very bad move to try and go into that forest without permission.
I can't imagine why.
And in some In some forests, aside from this one, unicorns are hunted for healing properties and are rarely seen. Whereas in this forest, they are thriving. And I'd say a big reason for it is because they are heavily protected by Ramliers.
Mm-hmm.
They even have a setup of forest guardians in that area to keep poachers out. But they did mention there was the Desert of Empty in that region, which is exactly what it sounds like. Although it's one of those places that is advised not to go to.
Again, I can't imagine why.
And it's definitely one that looks like a bowl kind of place. There is a central part of the desert that's called the Hole. And even if you aren't magically inclined, just going around that place is just bad vibes, because certain spiritual magic doesn't work in that area. Like if you try to cast spirit magic in the Desert of Empty, nothing happens.
Which is kind of weird.
Yeah. There is a hinting that some sort of battle happened there that just wrecked the place both physically and spiritually, but it's not known. Like the elemental spiritual forces are not there, so the wind doesn't blow. The earth is not rich. Springs and oases cannot appear, meaning you can't get drinking water in the place.
Yep.
Even insects can't survive there.
Because there's no elemental mana around to sustain life.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me think that the Desert of Empty would be more akin to what's left over after a nuke drops. Except without the radiation, just a lot of nothing.
Well, I think that the desert is more like what's a good alternative here? More like some of the voids described in Eastern novels I read. Not only is there nothing there, but because there's nothing there's no way for you to replenish yourself, so you slowly die as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to relationships, Ramlir has a decent relationship with Ofun. Pandaria, not so much.
Hostilities.
It hasn't gotten into full-on war, but skirmishes have broken out, and the attitude has been it's tense, but it hasn't gotten to the worst situation, and Rijal is trying to make sure it doesn't get that bad. Although how well he's going to succeed is another matter entirely. With Ramlirs,
Just sounds like a case of keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah, with Ramlirs there was the issue of King Ilaruna passing away and the Crown Prince Flarehorn becoming the new king. This has resulted in a succession dispute, so there is a little bit of unsettling. And Flarehorn is keeping friendly relationships with Ofun, while on the other hand, he is a bit concerned about the growing power of Fandria. So you're not far off with that whole friends close and enemies closer. But
I didn't think I was.
In the northeast, which is on the top right side of right side of the continent, just on the other side of the Desert of Empty, this is what's known as the Three Empires. Which are Lodoril, Baikal, and Physis. And nope, keep your friends in rifle range, but keep your enemies in knife range.
I mean, that's good advice.
Lodoril was a kingdom of not too much note for a long time. It was a very poor country, and then Queen June IV came along. Conscripting peasants, building an army, and invading the neighboring small countries one or another, essentially turning Lodoril from a small kingdom into a growing empire.
Empire. It's the point where you're like, oh no, an empire.
Yeah, and it has been involved in wars of aggression even to the present day, with its people fanatically loyal to Queen June, and June referring to these wars of aggression as a holy war.
Don't make the obvious joke. Don't make the obvious joke. Don't make the obvious joke.
Make the obvious joke.
Rahowa!
No.
Hey, he said it! Peer pressure. Peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure.
So that's how it is it?
I will pass the buck to Sig.
But
I love you though, Sig. I love you anyway.
Love you too, no homo.
All the homo.
indeed, peer pressure is the best kind of pressure.
Yep.
Well, a lot of I'd say the big reason why Lodoril has been largely kept in check has to do more with its neighbors like Baikal and Physis, as well as the fact that if Ofud and Ramlirs decided to deal with the problem, they'd probably just curb stomp.
That's one way to do it.
But
there's no kill like overkill.
Baikal is
It works.
one of the other three kingdoms within the Northeast. It has a king, but the real power is mostly through tribal leaders across the towns. The king is a symbol of the confederation of those tribes. And you have the southern settlements that are known as the Plains people, who do a lot of agriculture, of course. And then closer to across the mountains, you have the Sea people. The Sea people largely travel along these medium-sized galleys, doing trading and occasional piracy.
Piracy? Shame.
On this day and age.
Yarhar, we sail the seven seas.
It is a relatively young kingdom, though the royal family of it is a long-standing dynasty that's been around since ancient times. At first, they were against the whole piracy thing, but because of how much profit it ends up getting them, they couldn't.
Yeah, as long as they're getting money, turn a blind eye to it.
That was the whole point of Corsairs. But for a while they were using rowing galleys. In more recent years, they started to upgrade to sailing ships. But they never referred to their pirate ships as pirate ships. They referred to them as free merchant ships.
Free merchant.
Of course they would.
It's free real estate.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to because of the fact that these sea people are very much a nation of pirates, the main way to get in or get anything done there, money.
Of course it is.
Money and treasures. And then, of course, there's the third of the three kingdoms. Oh no, I have no idea how those pirates got military-grade cannons with my country's banner on it. I think the reason that the pirates are able to have so much pull is due to the fact that Baikal is not a traditional kingdom, but a loose collection. You have a king as a unifying force, but they don't have the full extent of power that a proper king would. And the third of the three empires is, of course, Physis, or rather, Phlysis. Some of the names I probably would need a pronunciation guide, and I am going to screw up pronunciation, to which I say I'm not apologizing.
Why would we apologize for something we can't control?
Phlysis is a more open nation than, say, Lodoril. Mostly, and some of that is due to the fact that it's currently at war with Lodoril. The big reason that Lodoril doesn't just bowl over them is Phlysis is running a defensive war. A lot of the fortresses have double moats as well as very thick stone walls. And of course, they have siege weapons themselves. Including plenty of catapults.
Yeah, that helps when you're pretty much just standing at the edge of a mountain.
Though there's also a awareness that their particular catapults are not for destroying armies, but for destroying siege weapons. As well as fortifications, because, well, at the end of the day, with a catapult, you're throwing huge rocks.
I throw the rock, it make you go boom.
Oh, got it. But not only that, but sometimes lumber is thrown, which Thorkel is probably laughing at that, and occasionally dead horses.
Hey, as long as it works, even corpses can be used as ammunition.
I suppose there's no point in killing a dead horse.
Dead horses soaked in oil and set on fire.
Yep.
Other thing I'm missing now is just some Greek oil, and then you'll really go ahead and terrify people.
Yeah, but also fixed crossbows, battering rams, and siege towers. Unlike the countries in the Central Plains, they are doing this sort of siege battle more commonly as opposed to cavalry fights.
That's like something Wogel Dorn would do on any given day.
And we mentioned this before, but one of the things that certainly helped was the scholar Lukiao, who joined in as a chief strategist for Plesis. And it should be noted that Plesis has a particular custom of true names. When a child in Plesis reaches adulthood, in addition to their previous name, they're given a true name by their godparents. You never reveal your true name to others, as sharing that with others is seen as the same as entrusting your life to them. It is only shared with people in very close relationships, such as a parent and child, or the married couple, or close friends. And
yep,
the exception to the rule is that the king is required to announce his true name.
Because the people need to be able to trust him.
And this isn't like true naming in, say, the Earthsea universe where it has some magical effect. But given how superstitious people are on true naming within Plesis, it may as well.
Yeah.
It's within the northeast region is also where the fallen city of Rex is, which played a big part in the PC game. If you've read the manual for Sword World PC, it brings up the fallen city of Rex, and it's also brought up in the core book. And it is even among ancient cities, it is unique. Although when it comes to the war in the Northeast, there are signs that because it's going to be a long and bitter fight, the economy is on a gradual decline in Plesis. At the same time, some of the tribes in Baikal have started cooperating with Lodoril, which could result in a civil war in Baikal between its northern and southern regions.
Well, that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. But there is this implication that at some point in the future, the Far East might end up becoming this ever-expanding empire, which I think is the reason why Plesis is fighting so hard, because they're like, she's not going to stop with just the Northeast.
Yep. She ain't gonna just stop with them.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna keep coming.
Yep. But south to that, in the what's referred to as the Far East region, are three kingdoms: Mudiel, Milargo, and Anoth. Mudiel is often called the furthest kingdom because, well, it's the furthest eastward where it is. A lot of people don't even know it exists. Not just because it's far away, but also because the kingdom tends to be a little closed off.
Isolationists or no?
I wouldn't say isolationists, but just that the people within it don't talk a lot about themselves.
Mhm.
Uh, their main in. Now it says, isn't Millargo a type of alcohol? Um, no. I mean, there might be an alcohol named after that. There's alcohols named after everything. But I think one of the things. Oh, it is. So I will stand corrected. Amusingly, the king of Muldil is named Tin. He is the 21st king of that kingdom. And it is between two mountain ranges and also borders the Goblin Woods. Their main industry is agriculture, but also they're not too bad when it comes to textiles, silk and cotton yarns especially. Some merchants trade using galleys, others do carts. They travel all over the continent, just loading up fabrics and then local products and transporting them to port and then keep going. Some of those voyages can last several years. And they do use galleys, much like the northern Baikals. Those are they're pretty fast and armed with catapults and crossbows because they know they are no stranger to pirates. Apparently, the merchants claim that their ships can outrun Baikal's pirate ships as long as they keep them out of close range. At the same time, Baikal doesn't seem to want to attack Mudil's merchant ships. It might be because Mudil has one of the more powerful navies on the continent.
I mean, that would definitely be a factor.
Like, a pirate ship is going to prefer taking out smaller amounts and not getting the attention of even a small fleet. I.e., you should never ever say, "You and what army?" But Mudil's ships are often referred to as armed merchant ships, which I'd say is more accurate than the free trader line that Baikal uses. But there are some creatures that are unique to Mudil. One example given is black and white striped tigers instead of yellow and black. And said tigers are somewhat larger than a tiger you might find in other regions.
Sounds dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And there's also an island further east where the tribe believes in a local sun god. But a lot of people don't know any further details because that island rarely engages in trade. That being the East End Island, which is pretty large for what's considered an island. And as far as the Goblin Woods, most people are going to stay out of that because you have Yoma and magical beasts in that place. As if the name didn't kind of give it away. Although I could easily see Goblin Slayer just going in there and not coming out until he's slaughtered every goblin he finds.
Gobudi.
That one, it would be the ex-Goblin Woods.
I think he turned it into the Goblin Graveyard.
No, it would just be called Goblin Slayer's Haunt.
it, but a big reason why some people might go in it is there are rumors of ancient kingdom ruins within the place. One of which has been referred to as the City of Illusion, as well as the capital, Mara Ajanis. So there is certainly that, as well as the legend of the City of Illusion. But Millargo, the kingdom of Meadows, is a much different place. It is on the other side of the Goblin Woods. So it is largely a grassland area, sometimes described as a sea of green. To the east of it is a marshland called the Wetlands of Oblivion, where no one goes. I wonder why.
I can't imagine why.
Though there are rumors that some savage tribes live there. There is also a large settlement of lizardmen in those wetlands who occasionally invade every few decades. But the Kingdom of Millargo is another tribe federation, essentially. There isn't really a king in the proper sense, but more of a council of tribe elders.
Mm-hmm.
And even the king is less of a king in the usual sense and more of a first among equals.
So a figurehead.
Someone they respect slightly more than everybody else.
Yeah. Although that's the way it's intended to be, but in practice, the Jarba tribe has the most amount of pull, and has been acting more like a royal line, passing their rules to their heirs. So,
Let me guess, they got the best fighters, right?
when you're dealing with this sort of setup, I'd say it's less of the best fighters and more of they've got more of everything. The role of king is more of a foreign policy position. Any sort of internal affairs within Millargo is handled by the laws of the individual tribes. Disputes between those tribes is not settled by the ruling of a king, but by war. So
That makes more sense than talking it out.
Why am I reminded of the Free Worlds League?
Huh. I wonder why.
I guess Millargo could say, "Don't bother attacking us. We have that covered."
We attack. Who do you attack? Yes. What? We attack. Who are you attacking? Yes. What?
Although saying that tribal battles saying that tribal disputes are more of wars is not entirely at the level you might think. It's mostly a group of mounted warriors in very small skirmishes with the rules of no projectile weapons.
It has
Big
rules.
jousting tournament.
When did war have rules?
Wait, war have rules? Well, if that's the case, I can't feel my Canadian blood just said, fuck it.
Yeah, but I feel like this is more this. There are certain rules that are applied. If you fall from you have to be mounted in these battles. If you fall from your steed, you're considered dead. You can't get back up. The winner forces the other side to accept conditions for which the battle was fought. So, it is more of a ritualized fight than a fight. The exception is if they're fighting other nations, in which point you might have multiple tribes say, "We'll stop bitching at each other so we can shoot at those guys."
Of course they're gonna.
Uh, so, I think that some of the other thing to note is that there is a tribe of centaurs within this kingdom, and even the centaurs there do follow the rules of the kingdom as a whole. The head of it, Vanda the Golden Tail, is a sorcerer. He's also a minister of the country and one who has a decent amount of knowledge of ancient magic, as a sorcerer. Which, I should note, centaur sorcerers are something that's not exactly common.
I mean, just the mental image of a centaur in a wizard's outfit, or something equivalent to it, is quite something, to say the least.
Mario saying, if you say I'd lose a fair fight, I have no reason to fight fairly. I would say that the tribal fights within Villargo are more akin to duels with extra steps. Just not duels completely to the death. And I'd imagine part of the reason to do this is so that the different tribes don't bleed out their armies. If these kind of conflicts happen frequently, imagine if they were all duels to the death. You'd eventually have no army within about a year.
This is true.
And I've been avoiding it for the longest time, but do you mock my Batchal?
I fucking what?
Sort of like House Merrick, don't attack us, we can do that ourselves kind of vibe. Pretty much. The self-attacking is a bit more ritualized than House Merrick. And I suppose you could say that Jarba is akin to that, since the Free Worlds League on paper is a parliamentary government. In practice, it is a military dictatorship, though not due to any sort of usurpation, but just because the Captain General, who usually is from House Merrick, has been given 200 years worth of emergency powers.
That's not enough. Give him more.
Yeah, they just, every time a problem happens, they give him emergency powers to do what he feels like he needs to do, and then the Parliament runs off.
200 is still a bit low. At least to make it an even 500.
But there is within this region, there is also a particular ruin known as the Statues of Giants, which I do believe we did go over a little bit 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
We did.
Yeah, it is essentially a collection of these giant statues with material that doesn't make sense, and no one knows who made it. But the third kingdom in the Far East is Anoth, the Holy Kingdom. This is essentially a kingdom that has the biggest temple to the supreme god Faris. It is ruled by a pope who is both the king of Anoth as well as the supreme priest of Faris, and as such has the ability to appoint other priests. And the throne is not hereditary. So, welcome to the Vatican, folks.
Oh, goodness.
And probably with a whole lot of zealots.
And you're on that thing until you die.
I'd say most of the zealotry that we've seen thus far would be all the way back in Lodoril, not necessarily here, though. Most of the people are believers in Faris and strictly follow his teachings. There are followers of other gods there, but most of them aren't numerous, and they're not going to be doing so publicly. The main order of knighthood within the country is the Knights of the Righteous Light, who are known for discipline and a willingness to fight to the death. It is considered one of the more powerful knightly orders. I'd say the only ones that rival it are the knightly orders in Ofud and Ramblers. Some of them leave the order for training and to spread righteousness. They are called Crusaders.
There it is. There's our legally distinct Order of Paladins.
Which a lot of the Crusaders hold the title as priests and can use divine magic from Faris. And because of that, I'd say a lot of neighboring kingdoms aren't keen to mess with them. But then again, Muad'Dil and Millargo don't even close strike me as nations that would want to pick a fight with them. Mostly because Muad'Dil keeps to themselves, and Millargo is too busy fighting each other except for the occasional Lizardman invasion. In other words,
Sounds terrible.
They've got bigger things to worry about. But I would say comparing it to the Vatican would be a bit extreme, but that's a decent parallel as far as a theocratic state. I would say they have a lot more pull than just Vatican City has.
The only thing I'm missing now is some kind of inquisitorial order.
Oh. Yeah, but if we did that, that would be completely expected.
And no one expects that kind of inquisition.
Mm-hmm. And although it would be fair to say that the knights are akin to paladins, though I've mentioned this before, but there is no paladin class in Sword World. Mostly because there's no need for it.
Indeed, you just pick a fighter and probably like a cleric or something, and then boom, there you go.
Priest.
Right, my bad.
But right in the is the Vatican prior to 1800? I'd say that's closer to the mark. Now right in the middle of Alecrast is, or rather of this particular region in the south, I won't say in the middle, but in a bit further east to the Far East regions, is Oran, which is just south of the massive fallen city.
I heard Nikki in the background again. He keeps saying Oran.
It has been around for about 200 years. Its founder was once the Governor General of the city and founded Oran out of the Warring States era. So it'd be safe to... Oran has the title of the Kingdom of Scholars and Adventurers, and it would be fair to say that they're probably the largest city-state in Eastern Alecrast. Now, a lot of the kings have been scholars. The current king is Kaliatard the Seventh, who is often called the Sage King, was taught by great scholar Mana Rai from his early childhood, and he is also a member of the Sorcerers Guild, and is the 16th ruler of Oran. The king, he seems to really push for technological development, including better farming tools, as well as improving sailing ships. Which there definitely seems to be a vibe that the idea of a sailing ship is a somewhat new concept in Alecrast.
How? Why would it be so recent? It's not like they've ever had reason to leave their area before.
And I'd say it's because of the fact that sailing ships are relatively new, that it makes a lot more sense why few people travel all the way south to Lodos.
Yep.
Because imagine trying to do that kind of journey on a largely rowing ship.
You'd be dead tired by the end of it all.
Or just dead. And it only takes a few dead.
That's the joke.
You suck, McBain. But it doesn't take. It wouldn't take two. It would only take one or two ships that don't come back for sailors to start telling tall tales, because you know how it is with sailors.
Yup.
Mono Rai is still around in Oran. They end up acting as one of the chief advisors, and well, the biggest mind in the Sorcerers Guild at Oran. And I kind of hinted at this 2 weeks ago, but it should be made clear that when it comes to the Sorcerers Guild, there is no one person who oversees every branch of it. Every major settlement has its own guild with its own leadership. But about 3 days northeast of Oran is the fallen city of Rex. And and the fallen city is massive, to the point where to go around the city would take at least a week.
That's a lot.
So, given that, would you say that the ruins of Rex are about the size of a modern metropolis?
If it takes a long time to get across them like that, yeah. Especially since part of the reason it's taking so long is that you're crossing ruins, so you have to navigate all that shit. But you also have the fact that it's just massive.
Yeah. It's believed that there's a lot of treasures from the Ancient Kingdom within it, but also a lot of monsters, including the implication of demons.
Demon.
So why don't they send me there? I'll take care of it.
The other thing that is supposedly in that city is fucking dragons.
Oh, so it's my hometown. Got it. Well, one of many of my hometowns.
But within the core book, there was this implication that you could do whole campaigns using Oran and Rex as your base and dungeon. But near the ruins of Rex, there is a settlement called Pada, sometimes known as the City of Adventurers. It started as a base for adventurers going into the fallen city to try and get rich, and expanded into being a full-on town. It's the idea of a settlement becoming a town right out of those ruins. And Malfast, what kind of dragons? Like big ones, small ones? Do they ride them, or all they like people? We're talking the big ass dragons, the ones that are country killing dragons.
We're talking about the dragons described in Toronto.
But they have no thatched roof cottages to burn.
Yep.
You don't know that.
At least
They
where
could be
are.
burninating the countryside
I mean, true.
and burninating all the peasants.
Exactly. This isn't the dragons you find in How to Tame Your Dragons. These are the giant mythical creatures that'll pretty much just crush you, and they probably wouldn't even notice it.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're the only things you gotta worry about. There are plenty of synthetic monsters that are likely experiments from the ancient kingdom. There are quite a few chimeras, several skeleton warriors, several golems, and other ancient defenses.
Skeleton Warriors wasn't that bad of a game. Just boring after a certain point.
It's about what you
Given the shared up.
No one's going to get that joke, Sig. Except for
God
us.
damn it, y'all.
Given the sheer
for us for a reason.
But it is advised that unless you have the firepower that King Rijal had, fighting dragons is not a good idea. I'd want to say it'd be akin to some of the elder dragons in Monster Hunter.
Let's put it this way: the dragons in these ruins are like facing things like Gogmazios, or Shara Ishvalda, or Xenojiva or Safijiva, or Elatrion, both 3 and 5 version.
Yeah, things that
You
are
want
an
yeah,
entire-
or Fatalis. Let's just go back to the goodie but oldie. Fucking Fatalis.
You know, kind of thing where you need a lot of firepower. You're not going to be taking that out as just a few adventurers.
I'm not. You're holding out for a hero.
But well, King Rijal was that, and had the strongest priest and the strongest sorcerer in Eastern Alecrast on his side. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Manticores.
Monk.
The one thing we didn't see in Dragon's Crown, which kind of makes me sad.
And
Forgot about the man.
God damn it.
How
Am I really the only Hydra here? Manticores, dragons, lizards, skeletons? Come on! Am I really the only species that hasn't been mentioned yet?
Yes.
I'm just talking about the ones that were known in the journal. There's probably other stuff.
You are indeed the only Hydra. You're special.
But it is believed at one point Rex was a floating city. Which, if that's in that particular case, and there is art of that, you could kind of see it as Vane on steroids. Pretty sure I made that joke 2 weeks ago.
That, or I'm kind of picturing the colony drop from the original Gundam show.
We're not going to be talking about Operation British.
Or Operation Meteor, or any other operation where things are dropped.
And Amov asks anything similar to Ronsor or Hrothgar in Sword World. Not in 1.0.
Yes.
In 2.0.
Well, in
yes.
Sword World 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have the Lukent and a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I say it the right way.
But
you may wonder, what's the right way?
But Palmer also has part of the Road of the Free People, which is probably one of the safer routes across Alecrast. And the way it's described, I keep getting visions of the Transcontinental Railroad.
I can see that.
And I know one might ask, well, if magic is a common thing in this place, why doesn't anyone do portals across the continent? The answer to that is they did in Castul. The knowledge to create those kind of portals has been lost.
Not to mention the fact that that sort of magic is very expensive.
Yeah.
Probably hard as balls to maintain, too, if you were to create that sort of network.
Again, very expensive.
At least compared to making a giant road.
Here I am on the road again.
God damn
it,
man.
You are all my friends. Remember that. You made this choice.
Yep.
Fair.
But when it comes to
Monk acknowledges his mistakes by calling me the bane of his fucking existence for a reason.
Yeah. When it comes to the central region, which is further east of Oran, and to the south of the chain of bizarre cliffs. You have mainly two kingdoms of note. Eremier, the kingdom of craftsmen, and Sine, the kingdom of lakesides. Now, with Eremier, it is a kingdom that largely has a lot of its power controlled by guilds. A lot of the craftsman guilds have a lot more pull there, and it's one of the places where the cultures of the eastern and western parts of Alecrast end up mixing. So you have a unique combination of both. It's believed that a big reason why Eremier has such a big thing with craftsmanship is having a lot of ports and a lot of transportation routes within its regions. There's also a very strong master and apprentice relationship that's within it, and that's how techniques get passed down in different crafts. It is for this reason that the guilds are significantly more organized within this place. It's the one place where trading of techniques is a lot more common.
Why did Amov reference Twisted Metal?
I don't know either.
I don't know either. Yeah, that's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, I'm just like, why did he do Twisted Metal? I don't get that.
Now, in the northern end of the kingdom, there is what's known as the Khan Desert, or the Desert of Malice. And I can hear William Shatner screaming in the distance.
No!
But this is not a case of the Desert of Empty. You can use spirit magic in the Khan Desert. It's where several nomad tribes have made their home. But because of the fact that it's a desert, a lot of those nomads have left their homeland and are scattered throughout the continent as wanderers. Usually in groups of 10 as entertainers and peddlers. Some of them are in cities as apothecaries or diviners. But they never adapt to another culture. And because of their approach, they have acquired a lot of knowledge. A lot of it orally, from their ancestors, and due to that, are very secretive. So it's one of those things where you might end up seeing them quite a bit and not realize it. Of course, the other reason for them being secretive is that they do have assassination techniques they can call upon. Magic-assisted assassination techniques.
That sounds awesome.
On the other side, on the other end of things, we have Sine, the Kingdom of Lakesides. Which the author of the story says that they ended up fleeing there because they accidentally witnessed one of the nomads' rituals.
Oh no.
But Sine is a agricultural country. It is relatively new. It emerged after Morana was destroyed by Krish. Its founder, King Slard, was a knight during the days of Morana. There are some people within Sine who hope for a restoration of the old kingdom, but they know it's not gonna be easy. Though part of the kingdom of Morana is now under the domain of Ofun, so there is a unspoken tension there.
Boy.
Sine also hates magic.
With a passion.
Especially because they believe, well, they see the breath of a dragon as a form of magic. So, I'd say there's a good reason why they don't care much for magic.
Oh, absolutely. Not that anyone else in the world cares. They're still going to use it.
Of course they are.
Yeah. But it is also amusing that the previous king before the current era was King Uranus I. And he did leave behind two princes. The elder of them, who was the crown prince, wasn't very remarkable and didn't seem to have the qualities of a king. The younger prince certainly had the talent, but of course you know how this goes. The elder brother got the crown.
Of course they did. Because that makes perfect sense, right?
And it didn't take long for the younger to usurp the older, and thus we get civil war.
Love us a good civil war.
Mm-hmm. Although this one ended up with the elder brother being defeated and beheaded, so it wasn't a long, bitter civil war like the Warring States era that lasted for decades.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the same time, some of the nobles of the former Morana who wished to restore it claimed that the Prince of Ofun, who was of Morana royal blood, was the rightful heir. And thus we get a second war starting. So,
second Civil War.
Yep. They ended one civil war only to start with another one. Plus, there's the whole thing of some factions within Sine really wanting to just mow over Ofun and create a new Morana. Ofun, of course they do. has no interest in doing that.
Ofun's like, you're gonna do what to the who now? No, fuck off. Bye.
And despite those kind of claims, Sine does not nearly have the kind of military power to actually go through with that.
Yep.
Although it was within this region where Gamel formed the currency that bears his name. And thus standardize the idea of a silver currency. It was a big reason for this kind of standardization was a similar silver that was made by dwarves appeared in Morana at the time. And having two different types of coinage, that's going to wreck an economy. Yep. So Count Gamel created his particular coinage as a way to stabilize things. It had a few problems at the beginning, but eventually it took root, was welcomed, and then it spread throughout the continent. Which is how you get Gamel being the standard.
At least in 1.0. Mm-hmm. Since in 2.0 it's an entirely different world.
Oh, and while Morana doesn't exist, the coinage guilds in Sine still make the silver coins. And I'd say it's the economic power that Sine has. That's the reason why people tolerate them. There's still that mindset of wanting to rebuild the kingdom of Morana, but half of what is that kingdom is not interested. They're like, no, we've set up a new identity. We're doing our thing now. We're not interested in being with you guys. Of course, there's still skirmishes that ended up happening, but the problem when you have a lot of military and magical genius in one kingdom, picking a fight with them is not a good idea.
No, definitely not.
But within the southern part of the central region, there are two other kingdoms, Lomar and Fandria. Lomar is the kingdom of travelers, and is very much a merchant kingdom that does have that it's technically a city-state, but it's way too big for a city-state. But having a lot of trade certainly helps, especially with it being at a intersection of two trade routes. On the other hand, because of the location that it's in, it's been threatened with invasion multiple times. It also is a place that has a black market, so you could get just about anything there if you know where to look.
Or who to ask.
Within the place is also a gladiatorial arena, which is where the legend of Rufus the Swordmaster came to be. There is also a bit of tension because not too long ago, it had annexed the city of Rad, which has become the city of mercenaries. But the Legend of Rufus the Swordmaster did get its own book. The only one who's probably a better fighter than him is King Rijal. And the two of them did fight. And well, at one point, and it was a draw.
A draw. Wow.
There was also the infamous battle between Cade and Rufus, who were considered the best duelists of the best gladiators of their time. Rufus chose a single longsword, while Cade chose a metal kite shield and a wide blade sword. In other words, one was going practical, the other was going pretty.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm. And Cade was no slouch, but it was a case where Cade ended up losing because one of them was playing things smart. It's like, I'm not here to look good for the crowd. I'm just here to win.
I will win, and you will lose.
After that, he never lost any battle in the arena. Retired as a champion, then became an adventurer, got success in that, and then mysteriously disappeared. Though some say he went to the Island of the Damned, some say he wanders the continent to this day. But he has gotten the title as the Eternal Champion ever since. But Fandria, on the other hand, is a neighboring country to Othum, and was one part of the Kingdom of Fun. That particular kingdom was destroyed after the power struggle in the aftermath of the attack of Krish.
Mm-hmm.
However, Fandria has a lot of thieves and assassins within its place. It does have a king, but the king is basically a figurehead.
That's just kind of sad.
Like, it's the Thieves Guild that really hold power there. And there's also the fact that it has a temple to the Dark God, a public temple to the Dark God.
Reminds me kind of Ul'dah, where the Sultana is actually the figurehead and the syndicate really rules it.
Final Fantasy XIV reference. Wahoo!
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
But so you kind of, which would make things interesting if, say, Anoth decided we're going to do a crusade and march on Fandria. What especially doesn't help matters on that is Fandria has its own warrior priests, the Dark Knights. And while that particular age of darkness in Foon is long since over, it's likely that is another place that is moving towards a civil war and probably going to wipe itself out in the process.
I mean, They're all so smart, Monk. They all know that they have to fight each other, so might as well wipe each other out, right?
I guess. And Ammo saying Dark Knights. Do they use shadow arts? No. I know you might be thinking of Final Fantasy style Dark Knights. That is not accurate. It would be, I guess, more equivalent to anti-paladins.
Blackguards.
Blackguards.
Blackguard.
Yeah, they are. A Dark Knight is essentially a warrior priest who is a follower of the Dark God instead of a follower of, say, the supreme god Faris. But it should be noted that one of the great. Does dude talk about their dead parents all the time? No. There are other mysteries like golems, which golems are not a single entity. They come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and materials. Some of them are made of stone, some of wood, some of steel, some of porcelain, some of, yes, flesh.
Well, there's some flesh golems. It's tasty.
There's even some that are made of precious metals like gold, silver, and mithril, as well as crystals, rubies, diamonds, and other gems. Humanoid is the most common form a golem will take, but there are others that look like beasts, mythical beasts, magical beasts, and those that defy description, essentially. A lot of these golems were products of the ancient kingdom, and the people who made golems were referred to as enchanters. Some of them that were made by less skilled enchanters were stock models, whereas the more elaborate ones were made by the more skilled types. Obviously, iron golems are slowest, but they can certainly take a beating. And there is an implication that different types of golems were used as foot soldiers by the ancient magic kingdom. And unsurprisingly, they are highly resistant to magic.
I can't imagine that is true, Monk. It's a great surprise.
I'm reminded of a certain episode from Louis the Rune Soldier.
Huh. I wonder why he would be reminded of Louis the Rune Soldier, Monk.
But when it comes to dragons, you can put them into two categories: the ancient dragons, also known as drakes, and lesser dragons. It is said that the dragon that was in the final War of the Gods was so big it covered the skies. And there is a dragon in the saga of Hershin about a dragon slayer of the ancient kingdom that was engulfed in flames all over the body. However, there's a heavy implication that no one's seen a dragon in some time, only their corpses.
Dragon zombies?
But a drake has the body length of a large sailing ship. I would say the difference between the two is the lesser dragons are the ones who can't fly. Most of the info on dragons mostly concerns the drakes. the lesser dragons look. Actually, I have to correct myself. The lesser dragons look like drakes, but only half as long and do not have the same level of intelligence and cannot use magic. They're essentially jumped up beasts. However, just because they're lesser compared to a drake does not mean they're not dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Underestimate them at your own peril is what we're trying to say.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you may hear "parry this, you filthy casual" from something like that.
No,
Why are they talking about your daily activities, Zan?
Me telling everybody to parry this, you filthy casual?
Exactly.
Because remember that I am not just chaos incarnate, I am the dragon of metal and chaos.
So that's why they named that game after you.
But there are also the legends of Titans, and of course nobody's seen a Titan. Since any Titan is dead, the closest thing equivalent is some of the giants in some parts of the world. And there is also the nod to spirits. And even with the description of spirits and spirit magic, you can kind of see the seeds being planted for what would become fairy magic in 2.0.
Indeed.
You know, some of the lesser spirits are represented by just the 4 elements. So gnomes, undines, salamanders, and sylphs. While higher ones are behemoths, krakens, ifrits, and jinns. There you go. You got something close with krakens. No hydras
Krakens
yet.
have multiple tentacles, but not multiple heads.
Mm-hmm. So, light and darkness also make manifestations as spirits, being will-o-wisps and shades. There are also mental spirits, those being sprites and leprechauns. In the lesser end of things, and furies and banshees among the higher things. The idea of banshee as a mind spirit is an interesting one. I mean, their scream does do psychic damage.
Reach.
And it's part of the reason why Mara Ajanis' capital in the Goblin Woods is a place people don't go into, because it's crawling with banshees.
Indeed.
However, there are also spirits that are tied to life. Their names aren't known, but they're considered to rule life activities. Some have speculated that the powers of unicorns are tied to life spirits. And some spirit users will say that there are spirits that control negative life forces of monsters. But the thing is that if a spirit is manifesting physically, it's never manifesting in, say, a body in the traditional sense. An example given is Sylph. When Sylph manifests, it's as if she was ripping through the air. Which is an interesting way to visualize it, even though spirits might have humanized appearances, that's not how they manifest physically. Because remember, the world is divided into three worlds, essentially. or three planes, I should say. The material, the physical, and the fairy. That was something we went over a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Though there is the implication that there is another world that doesn't belong to any of them, and that is implied to be both the heavenly world and the underworld. And the underworld, of course, is also known as the demon realm. There is also the implication that the material world is not a single entity but multiple worlds, which is funny because there was a replay that dropped in Japan a few months ago that explored this idea of an adventure crossing between Raxia and Forcilia. And there has always been this unspoken idea that the Grass Runners have crossed over between those worlds. Exactly how they did it, no one knows. And the evil side of fairies, of spirits, is how you get yomas. It is believed that they were summoned into the material world by the gods of darkness during the War of the Gods. And afterwards, because they weren't unsummoned, they're just stuck here. And surprise, surprise, at the top of the Yoma hierarchy are the Dark Elves. But with that said, that covers a lot of the greater world when it comes to the western and central side of not western, not eastern. Why do I keep getting those two crosswired?
East. I thought you said east.
Yeah, of Alecrast. Now, I will note, in 2 weeks, we'll be getting into one particular unique region within Alecrast known as the 10 Children, which is not a kingdom, but a collection of city-states that have mutually aligned themselves to protect themselves against invasion of other nations. But with that said, what do you guys think of what we see regarding the different nations in detail of Alecrast?
Seems like a lot of lore, and the more I hear about it, I'm like, why can't I play this? Why am I not playing this
now? Ultimately, it seems like, at least with Alecrast, it's constantly under upheaval, like constantly.
All the political and military tension going on.
No kidding.
Yeah, you cut out after under upheaval, and I can't read it. What the hell? Zan, if you're saying anything, I can't hear you.
I'm not saying anything. I just stopped at upheaval because they started, because I wanted to let other people talk too.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think we saw 3 or 4 different areas that are on the brink of civil war, or just old-fashioned war.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be pretty boring if everyone got along.
Yeah, it would.
Well, then maybe you could make that your goal. You're the one who causes upheaval at that point.
Which
There's always a way to shake things up.
it is funny that that Warring States was brought up, because if there's any parallel to this constant upheaval that I see within Alecrast, I would say the Holy Roman Empire and the many countries that were under it.
Yep, I can see it.
Kidding.
I know I made the joke about the great houses in BattleTech. We're not at that stage yet. We're not at the stage of a tragedy, comedy, and apocalypse. But any sort
Keyword to be in yet.
any sort of peace is gradually tenuous. I'd say one of the interesting things is a lot of these nations are still relatively young as far as countries go. Some of them much younger than others. I'd say Ofun is probably the youngest nation, but the other ones have only been around for a few hundred years.
Like I said to you, a tragedy, comedy, apocalypse brought to you by Comstar.
And I think what's equally interesting is while a lot of them are ruled, a lot of the countries have a monarchy. It's not universal, and even the way a king is utilized is far from universal. That is one of the big vibes I end up getting from this.
Yep.
I'd say another thing is there's a lot of room for exploring internal conflict, to the point where even though one of the big ways to get experience is going into ruins, I think it would be relatively easy for someone to do a campaign in this where they are involved in the political machinations between nations. We don't have a lot of detail on the different noble factions within them, but that's something that I think a decent GM can fill the blanks on.
Absolutely.
And it'll be very interesting when we get to the 10 children, because the 10 children are not a nation per se. As I said before, they are a collection of city-states that are independent from the other nations. And because of the fact that they're further westward, they have a much different culture. And in fact, I would say the culture there is significantly more varied.
That'll be at another time.
Mm-hmm. But that'll be something we dive into in about 2 weeks. So, with that said, I would like to give thanks to Aquid and his team, as always, for translating this kind of thing. I'd also like to give thanks to some of the folks who have translated the Lodos and Sword World novels, especially folks like Gilgamesh. And also a thanks to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show. I will be back later tonight with Soundfall, and obviously next week we'll be doing what we initially planned for last week, but weren't able to.
Yeah,
we're going to be covering a Final Fantasy IV conversion, and as I said, going forward, I think the conversions we do on Fated Continuum are going to get significantly
easier and more interesting.
There we'll also be doing our judging on the October entries. I realize it's a bit late, but better late than never. And as mentioned, the November challenges are still up. So get on that while you can, because same rule applies. At midnight on the last day, I'm locking the threads. But with that said, I do hope to see some of you here for the next episode of the Record of Swordforged Worlds, and it should be an interesting time going over the 10 children. So with that said, Zan, you mind closing us out?
Of course. As always, thank you for journeying with us. We who adventure through these Swordforged worlds, we hope that your adventures are grand and your treasures myriad.
Stay frosty.